The slot machine explodes in lights and coins with the sound of a massive jackpot. And the winner was Quack Pill Hyap, an ex-convict who just pocketed $293 million. However, only 3 hours later we see the same Quack at the top of a completely desolate casino. With tears streaming down his face, he laments his luck because he lost all the money he had won. Shortly before this, he was on the edge of the building thinking about ending everything at once. Amidst his crying, he regrets not stopping when he won the grand prize. Suddenly a voice emerges asking if that was what Mr. Quack Pill Hyap was thinking. The mysterious man further comments that he cannot ask his famous daughter for money because of a restraining order. Then with a smile he offers Quack enough money to completely change his life. Upon opening a small wallet, an absurd amount of money begins to pour out from inside it. The man explains that he can withdraw 1,000,001 per second from that magic object. Quack then spends the last 3 hours withdrawing money non-stop, accumulating a mountain of bills. But the mysterious man reveals there is a price, because with every withdrawal something related to Quack diminishes. Hearing this, Quack is terrified, realizing the terrible consequence of his greed. Even so, he made over 10 billion won in just 3 hours and does not seem to want to stop. With a shout of euphoria, Quack says he can now even enter the casino VIP room, because he believes this is the moment to turn the tide of his life, while the mysterious man just watches. Greed takes over and he continues withdrawing 1,000,000 won per second from the magic wallet. In his delusion of power, the ex-convict screams that he was destined for greatness. However, a sudden shock runs through his body and despair takes over his face. Suddenly, Quack collapses to the floor on top of the mountain of money, coughing non-stop. The mysterious man approaches with a cynical air and asks if he is feeling well. He looks at Quack's body, which is now thin and fragile, lying in the middle of the bills, and with a sarcastic smile he realizes the man is obviously not well at all. So he wonders why Quack kept withdrawing money until his weight became a life-threatening risk. Soon after, he reveals that if Quack had looked in the mirror, he would have seen his body shrinking. With the wallet glowing in his hand, the man now thinks about who will be the next to receive it. His eyes shine as he imagines what the next person will have to sacrifice for money. The scene shifts to the funeral of the parents of Chien Jumbo, a 9-year-old boy comforting his sister, and his older sister Chien Yun. Hoa cries while he promises to take care of her in the future. The boy explains that the combination of their names means gold, silver, and treasures, something very valuable. Full of confidence, he promises he will be very successful in the future just to make his sister rich. Moved by her little brother's mature attitude, Yun, Hoa pulls him into a tight hug. She thanks him for the words but feels a weight in her heart because she is the one who should be taking care of him. While holding back tears, she imagines what kind of incredible and respectable man he will become. However, reality was cruel, and years later Jumbo became the school weirdo wearing makeup. Now he makes bizarre poses for selfies while being humiliated by the high school bullies. The group leader Yang A-jun holds him for the photo, calling the poor guy a perverted sadist. The teasing only stops when Shin Yi appears angry, questioning why they took his pouch. The bully lifts the object high up, mocking the chubby boy's height, while she demands its return. Jumbo is in awe, seeing Shin Yi save him again, thinking she is the kindest person in the world. But the aggressor does not care at all and with a mocking smile strokes her head. The girl is paralyzed and confused, not understanding such boldness from the guy in front of everyone. He returns the item, laughing at the situation, but Shin Yi is furious, cursing the guy for touching her. Meanwhile, Jumbo takes everything seriously, swearing that in a few years he will prove his worth. Time passed and we see that Yang A-jun remains the same jerk as always, laughing loudly while looking at something fun on his phone. Beside his friend Jin Il-sik, he mocks those who need to work hard, calling these people losers in uniforms. In the meantime, Jumbo lives in a dream world, imagining a future where he walks hand in hand with his beloved Shin Yi among the flowers. In his head, she would take him to meet her family, and even his older sister would be enchanted by the girl's charm. But reality hits hard when he reads a post of hers thanking her boyfriend for the romantic trip they took to Bali. The shock is so great that he breaks into a cold sweat, realizing the girl of his dreams is traveling abroad accompanied by another man. Deep down, he already suspected she had someone, but he refused to believe it was specifically Yang A-jun, that bully. Now at 25 years old, Jumbo works as a laborer and regrets never having the courage to confess to Shin Yi. Suddenly, the phone vibrates in his hand, snapping the boy out of his depressive thoughts and bringing him back to the now. Seeing that it is a message from his sister, he takes deep breath, wishing she would realize this is not a good time for a chat. She excitedly asks if he wants to eat chicken today, but the sadness on Jumbo's face is so great that not even food improves his mood. The sister mentions she was promoted to supervisor, and he tries to hide the pain, replying with several emojis pretending to be happy. However, the stress is so high that he ends up having a sudden coughing fit and spits his drink all over his phone. To make matters worse, a coworker appears shouting and calling him a pig for slacking off at the end of the break. Jumbo stands up dazed, thinking that if he works hard like his sister and increases his salary, maybe his life will improve. Jumbo runs full of hope, thinking that one day he will be able to date, travel, and live like everyone else. He believes that as long as he keeps his health in check, the glory days will surely arrive. But life is cruel, and a few days later he receives the news that it is blood cancer. In the office, the doctor explains it is also called leukemia, while the boy remains speechless. The doctor warns that he needs to hospitalize the patient immediately for more detailed exams. Junbo is in shock because he went to pick up his sister for heat stroke and suddenly receives this bombshell. He looks at her devastated, feeling that the world is not just being unfair but way too cruel. His mind goes back to the day she was promoted and was radiant eating fried chicken. Remembering that happy smile only makes his heart ache more seeing his sister's current state. In the hospital room, the sister looks out the window realizing that in the end the world has always been like this. She reflects that no matter the effort, those born to lose will never win. Junbo enters the room and reality hits hard that having a future is a privilege for those who are lucky. With a guilty look, she apologizes to her brother. Because she knows the hospital bills will be heavy, she regrets only holding on tight instead of enjoying life, and Junbo despairs at the apology. Crying, he thinks that if he had known, he would have spent all his money to fulfill her wishes. On the subway back home, the dark environment reflects the emptiness he feels inside. To try and forget the depression, Junbo opens social media seeking a distraction. Suddenly, a blind man bumps into him with a cane and even complains, making the boy apologize. Returning to his phone, he notices that his search list is full of former schoolmates. Without the courage to interact, he just watches, hidden as their lives are so different. There are people who failed in their studies but are traveling Europe with their parents' money. Others became super young bosses driving luxury cars inherited from their families. There are even those who already got married and received a ready-to-move an apartment, living without difficulties. These are photos of vacations in fancy hotels that he and his sister could never even dream of having. Junbo is mesmerized looking at a photo of a girl in a bikini on the phone screen, but he is so distracted that he does not see a female passenger beside him watching everything. The woman looks at him with pure contempt, thinking the boy is some kind of pervert. She moves away in disgust, making him face the harsh reality of his own existence. In that moment, he understands that such a bright future will never be for him, and that unfortunately he will never be able to have a common and happy life like other people. The subway ride becomes a torment, and he feels his mind has suffered critical damage from everything he saw on social media. Upon arriving in his humble neighborhood, the darkness of the night seems to reflect exactly how he feels inside, empty and hopeless. He walks down the stairs of his house researching the disease and discovers that the treatment for this cancer costs a fortune. Just a bone marrow transplant would cost tens of millions, but his salary barely pays the debts to loan sharks left by his parents. Since his sister will be hospitalized without working, all the responsibility for bills and rent will fall solely on his shoulders. Lying on the floor and staring at the ceiling with no perspective, Junbo concludes that unfortunately there is no other way out but death. He remembers that his sister took out life insurance for him 2 years ago, and that would guarantee good money if he passed away. Drunk and crying, he calls his sister a fool for worrying about his insurance instead of getting one to take care of her own health. Knowing she would refuse treatment due to lack of cash, he decides to sacrifice himself so that at least she can pay for the hospital. But when he questions if he has the courage for that, a voice emerges from nowhere, making the boy spit his drink in shock. Footsteps echo through the small room, and he sees a man in a suit standing there looking at his deplorable situation with superiority. With a mysterious smile, the stranger asks if it wouldn't be a waste to live and die in such a pathetic way without having enjoyed anything. He continues provoking, saying that surely there are many things Junbo would still like to do before leaving. The man then stares at the frightened boy and asks if Mr. Junbo is not in desperate need of money. He explains that he only appears to those at rock bottom and promises to give an amount capable of completely changing that cruel destiny. Junbo stands paralyzed, staring at the intruder without understanding absolutely anything that is happening. He begins to question who that stranger is and for what reason he would be offering him cash. But panic arises when he thinks about how the fellow got in, since the house should have been locked. Trying to find logic, he considers having left the door open, but he is sure he closed it. Analyzing the man's face better, he notices the intruder does not look like a psychopath. In fact, looking closely through his glasses, he notes that the guy seems normal, even too normal. The guy exudes wealth with a tailored suit, impeccable skin, and a hairstyle of someone who spends a lot. Sweating cold, Junbo concludes it must be some millionaire doing charity just for fun. Irritated, he points his finger and shouts, asking if that is some kind of prank for YouTube. He imagines the guy is there to exploit his misery and gain views with his misfortune. Anger consumes Junbo, thinking the rich man is giving him alms just to feel superior. Full of pride, he yells that he would never sell his family's dignity for a few cents. In an act of defiance, he demands to know if the man would give him 1 or 10 billion won if he asked. The man doesn't even blink and with a macabre smile answers that yes, he can give that amount. Moving his face closer, he questions if that money would be enough to save his sister and truly live. The man clarifies that there are conditions to receive the cash, but everything depends exclusively on the boy's mindset. Confused by the term, Junbo widens his eyes, not understanding what kind of thought he should have had all this time. Your mind travels to the past, remembering the promise you made to your sister to get into a great university and give her a good life. He dreamed of walking across the campus with his beloved, but now questions where his mentality failed to reach this rock bottom. The mistake was blindly believing that just staying healthy was enough for days of sun and joy to arrive naturally in his life. Now shock takes over him as he realizes how naive he was for thinking in that optimistic way for so long. The rich man places a hand on his shoulder, agreeing with an ironic smile that Bo really lived with the wrong mentality his whole life. He points out that this unfounded belief that things would improve on their own created a vicious cycle of toxic positivity that led him to ruin. The man continues, saying that with the right attitude he could have billions, and hints that Bo already knows the speech he is going to give. Fury explodes and Bo screams, accusing the guy of wanting to blame his poverty on his own choices and attitudes. With tears in his eyes, he shouts that he also thought that way at the beginning, believing that hard work would bring natural rewards in the future. But the cruel truth is that some are already born with a silver spoon, being owners of buildings and fortunes as soon as they leave their mother's womb. These people don't even need to open a book to study, because with money they buy grades and pay people to take tests for them. And if they fail, they just go abroad to falsify their resume while dating and driving luxury cars in their 20s without worries. Then the parents set up a business for them to play boss, while those born poor have no chance at all if they are not handsome. The boy continues his outburst, saying that nowadays to change your life you have to become a celebrity or marry someone rich. Sobbing, he screams that in today's society having the so-called right mentality or working hard serves absolutely no purpose. Falling to his knees, he admits that life is defined by luck from birth, while the man observes him silently. The guy then questions if the boy shouldn't view that unexpected encounter as the greatest luck of his entire existence. He states that Bo only needs to have the courage and the insane mentality to bet his own life on this unique opportunity. His golden eyes glow intensely, promising that the money he is going to offer is capable of rewriting any future. The chubby boy stands static because he knows he is at the end of the line, cornered by life and with nowhere to run. And it was exactly at this moment of total despair and no return that he met the entity known as the Money King. Regaining some composure, Bo raises his head and asks directly what the limit of this offered amount would be. With a suspicious look, he questions if the man is going to give him unlimited money, thinking there is some catch to it. The man promptly agrees, saying he is smart because nobody needs infinite money to change their life. Then he reaches into the inner pocket of his suit, preparing to show the source of all that promised wealth. What he pulls out from there is a cute little pink wallet, presenting the magic object as the wallet beast. Extending the item, he begins to explain the rules, stating how much Mr. Chi and Bo can withdraw from that creature. The value is 1,000,001, and Bo is incredulous, thinking it is a bad joke played on him. The man stares at the boy with seriousness and reinforces that those 1,000,001 is not a one-time value. He clarifies that in fact this amount can be withdrawn every second, turning the boy into an instant millionaire. The rich man explains that from the moment Bo accepts the offer, the wallet beast will constantly increase its limit. Opening the wallet, he demonstrates how it works by pulling out a wad of bills, while Bo watches with his mouth open. He says that in 10 seconds the boy will have 10,000,001, and in 1 minute the amount will rise to 60 million. The floor of the room begins to be carpeted by bills that fall like rain, leaving the boy dizzy with so much wealth. The man continues his calculations, saying that if Bo waits 24 hours he will have an incalculable fortune. While the bills fly through the air, the boy tries to process the math, realizing the offer is much better than he imagined. With a confident smile, the guy asks if that limit would already be enough to satisfy Bo's ambition. He guarantees that the money withdrawn from the magic wallet is completely clean, tax-free, and untraceable by the IRS. The man snaps his fingers, saying that no one will ever investigate the origin of that fortune because it is invisible to the system. Bo is still in shock, unable to believe what his eyes see, while the other shrugs. The rich man warns that if he doesn't believe it, even seeing the magic happen in front of them, there is nothing more to be done. The boy looks at the floor covered in money and remembers that the man had mentioned a condition for all that. The guy confirms with a dark smile, saying that nothing in the world is for free and that to receive he will have to pay a price. Bo is apprehensive and asks what that condition would be, while the man confirms that nothing in the world is for free. The rich man explains that he can take money from the wallet beast whenever and wherever he wants and the amount he desires. However, the price to be paid is that with every withdrawal something related to Bo will decrease. The man makes sure to clarify that it is not just money that will be lost, but something directly linked to the boy's existence. The first rule is that when something of Bo's continues to decrease until it ends, he will eventually disappear completely. The second is that if he goes 30 days without taking money, the wallet beast loses its reason for existing and vanishes. And the third rule involves transfer, abandonment, or death, which would result in the total loss of possession of the magic object. With a confident smile, the man asks if it isn't simple, while Bo stands there processing so much information. The time for decision has come, and the rich man extends the wallet, offering the boy the chance to have unimaginable wealth. But he also warns that in exchange for this fortune, Bo will lose something precious from his life. The man then questions if the boy will be able to be truly happy knowing the high cost he will have to pay. Bo looks at the shiny wallet and thinks that if he dies and leaves the insurance to his sister, she will be fine. But if he uses the magic money and decreases his lifespan until he dies, the final result will be exactly the same. With a determined look, he realizes he has absolutely nothing to lose in this risky bet, and so he decides to accept the offer because he sees no reason at all to refuse the chance to save the one he loves. The boy is in shock with the revelation, trying to process what he just heard about losing his life. With trembling hands he screams, saying he desperately needs that money no matter the cost. An intense light emanates from the wallet while the man in the suit smiles, sinisterly enjoying the moment. His eyes glow with a yellowish tone, observing the boy as if he were just a mere experiment. He opens his eyes wide, seeing greed and despair mix on Junbo's sweaty face. The chubby boy opens his eyes wide, feeling a wave of energy course through his body as he holds the wallet. Beast. Suddenly a gust of wind sweeps the room, throwing objects away with the force of the released magic. Junbo falls, sitting on the floor, frightened by the supernatural power he just witnessed in his humble home. The door opens by itself with the impact of the wind, and he realizes there is no turning back now that he has accepted the deal. Still incredulous, he looks at the wallet in his hand, questioning if all that is real or just a crazy dream. He decides to open the wallet to see with his own eyes, but at first it seems to be completely empty. However, upon thinking of an amount and reaching inside, he feels something solid and pulls out a wad of money. Junbo screams, shocked to see that it really worked and that he now has wads and more wads of bills in hand. The money does not stop coming out, and in an instant he has already accumulated 65 million won on the bedroom floor. But as he holds the fortune, he feels a pang in his chest and wonders how much of his life was just consumed. However, Junbo soon realizes it was obvious the man would appear exactly at the moment of his death. After all, the rule is clear: he would only give money equivalent to the life the boy was about to abandon. In other words, his existence will now be consumed in the same proportion as he spends that fortune. But Junbo doesn't care, because he considers himself just a mortal living a passing and worthless moment. With the wallet in hand, he swears he will save his sister and then enjoy every second he has left. Suddenly he notices something strange on the wallet, as if it were a smudge or dirt stuck to it. Looking closer, he is startled to see that the smudge is actually two little eyes blinking at him. The wallet suddenly comes to life and from his hand, making the chubby boy fall backwards in surprise. The cute pink object lands on the floor with a bouncy sound and stares at the boy with curiosity. Junbo panics, screaming that the wallet is alive while staring at the bizarre little creature. The next day we see the boy sitting on a bench outside of work, looking exhausted. He holds the pet wallet and offers water, worried because it hasn't eaten anything since yesterday. Junbo apologizes, calling it Wallet-chan, and says he felt bad leaving it home alone. Suddenly a coworker approaches and asks if he is feeling lonely talking to objects. The shock is so great that the boy almost drops the creature, while the coworker concludes he has gone completely mad. The boss looks with contempt, asking if the madman has now taken to talking to a coin purse. Junbo tries to explain it is not a common object, showing the inside of the pouch to him. But to no one's surprise, the man only sees an empty and lifeless bottom in there. The boy insists, bringing the object closer and asking if he doesn't see the cute glowing eyes. This only irritates the boss, who raises his hand, threatening to beat him until he regains his senses. And without waiting for an answer, he delivers a violent slap to Junbo's face, who is left dazed. While the boy tries to recover, the aggressor tells him to go buy cigarettes if he's idle. Furthermore, he humiliates the chubby boy, accusing him of having eaten all the lunch meat by himself. Tired of being a punching bag, Junbo questions the reason for the gratuitous aggression in the cafeteria. The boss tries to strike again, but this time the boy dodges, surprising the bully. Indignant at the audacity, the man prepares an even stronger strike to put him in his place. But Junbo does not back down, and with a serious look decides he will no longer accept this in silence. He says he has been waiting for this moment and throws the supervisor to the floor with gusto. Finally, free from fear, he throws the resignation letter he kept in his pocket right in the man's face. And while the boss groans in pain, Junbo warns that he will also sue him for workplace harassment. The reason for the resignation written on the paper is simple and direct, as he claims to have won the first prize in the lottery. And from that day on, he officially becomes unemployed, leaving behind that life of humiliation at work. But not just any unemployed person, but rather the one he always dreamed of, being filthy rich, lazy, and free. With a grin from ear to ear, Junbo decides that now is the time to finally enjoy this new phase of life. His first stop is in front of the luxurious Halton Hotel, being the first time he sets foot in a 5-star place. Upon entering, he notices the sophisticated environment and the elegant people, so different from the dirty world where he used to live. Without wasting time, he reaches into the kitten pouch and pulls out a large sum to start spending like a king. The result of this spending spree is a huge box of premium sushi that glows from being so fresh and appetizing. Seeing that at the hospital, his sister almost falls backward from such surprise at the quality of the food he brought. Junbo sets the table, saying he heard that she needs to eat very well during chemotherapy. However, the girl grows suspicious because she knows that is far too expensive and asks where he got money for such luxury. The brother brushes it off with a smile, saying he saw some ladies eating with gusto and wanted to bring some for her to taste right away. She picks up the chopsticks, hesitantly commenting that such a fancy dish must have cost more than 30,000 won. Hearing this, Junbo's expression changes instantly and a feeling of sadness invades his chest. Because that sushi costs 50 times more, and he realizes the poor girl only knew cheap supermarket food. But the scolding doesn't stop there, and the sister furiously questions why he is not at work. She points to his broken glasses, demanding to know what happened for them to be in that state. Junbo tries to hide it, getting all twisted up, trying to explain the embarrassing situation. Worried, she says she cannot rest easy in the hospital knowing he is acting recklessly. Then the boy approaches and whispers in her ear that he actually won the lottery. The sister widens her eyes, unable to believe what she just heard, and asks if he is really serious. Junbo pulls out his phone and shows the lottery app with the winning numbers on the screen. She is in shock seeing that her brother pocketed more than 1 billion won with that bet. The boy lies, saying he took medical leave just to go collect the prize and secure the cash. The girl is speechless, staring at the phone while the brother brags about the great luck he had. Junbo mentally gives thanks for having downloaded that fake lottery simulation app. He tells her to enjoy the food as a celebration since now they are truly rich. The sister begins to cry with relief, confessing she was terrified of the treatment costs. She says she was afraid of spending all his savings and ending up destroying her brother's future. Junbo holds back tears, moved seeing that even while sick her priority is still him. But his happiness is interrupted by a shrill voice screaming, asking who he thinks he is. It is the nurse, who appears furious, accusing him of being crazy for bringing raw food into the hospital. She explains that the patient's immunity is extremely low and that any infection could be fatal. The woman continues yelling, telling him to use a VIP room if he wants to eat those things. Junbo is embarrassed and tries to justify himself, saying he didn't know the risks of raw fish. Meanwhile, the sister observes everything with a sad look, feeling guilty for the commotion. Determined to fix the mistake, he moves his sister to a VIP room that looks more like a luxury hotel. The place is huge, having a living room, a giant television, and top of the line furniture everywhere. The girl is marveled because she never imagined such a fancy hospital room existed. Junbo smiles proudly and warns that from now on she will only receive the best possible treatment. He promises he will buy new glasses and take care of everything so she recovers in comfort. Upon leaving the hospital, he feels an immense relief for finally being able to provide her with a dignified life. Decided to change his look, Junbo enters a designer store ready to spend without fear, but his peace is short-lived as he hears a familiar voice mocking his unchanged appearance. It is Jin Il-sik, the old-school bully, who appears laughing and calling him a fat loser. Il-sik was always obsessed with luxury brands like Gucci, but now he is just an arrogant salesman. He is surprised to see Junbo there, thinking it impossible that a famous school bigar has money. Junbo is shocked, thinking that fate must be playing a joke on him. With a fake smile, Il-sik asks what he is doing there since there is no bathroom on the first floor. The boy swallows hard and says he came to buy new clothes and glasses, trying to maintain his dignity. This makes the salesman roar with laughter in his face, saying that store is way too expensive for his pocket. A colleague tries to intervene, saying that Il-sik is crossing the line and treating a customer poorly, but the bully doesn't care and continues humiliating Junbo, calling him his old lackey. He grabs the chubby boy's head with contempt, saying he remains the same failure as always. With no alternative, Junbo shows the wad of cash, proving he has money to spend. Il-sik stops laughing instantly and his eyes shine upon seeing the 50,000 won bills. Immediately his attitude changes and he begins to treat the boy well with a malicious plan in mind. He dresses Junbo in expensive clothes and takes photos, mocking him behind his back with colleagues. The salesman pretends to be an incredible stylist, praising the ridiculous look just to secure the sale. Thinking only of the commission, he plans to extort every last cent from this special customer. Il-sik tells his colleague with a wicked smile that he is going to make an extra profit at the chubby boy's expense. Junbo agrees to buy the clothes, even knowing the guy is clearly mocking him. Satisfied with the sale, the salesman falsely praises the customer's choice and pretends to be impressed. Suddenly, he decides to slap Junbo's butt, pretending he is just adjusting the pants. The boy turns around indignant, but the salesman just laughs and says it was by accident, taking another photo. The chubby boy turns red with rage but decides not to start trouble there and just pays the bill. However, when he asks to see women's clothes, Il-sik's attitude changes completely to total mockery. The salesman questions if Junbo is going to wear the clothes himself and starts laughing out loud, calling the others over. He says bluntly that he won't sell women's clothes to a guy like, humiliating him publicly. Junbo tries to stay calm and says that then he will buy from another salesman, pointing to the side. Il-sik's smile disappears instantly and a terrifying expression takes over his face. He grabs the boy's arm and warns with a threatening look that he can only buy from him. Junbo stares the bully in the eyes and says he won't buy anything from him and even promises to return there always. Il-sik gets furious, sending a message to his friend Yang A-jun telling him about the rich fatty. On the other side, Yang A-jun shows the photo to his girlfriend Shin, he laughing at someone else's misfortune. The couple laughs cruelly at the photo, but soon their expression changes to amazement as they see who is approaching the table. Junbo walks up to them wearing his bizarre Gucci look with the greatest confidence in the world. Shin widens her eyes, unable to believe that stylish rich man is the chubby boy she used to know. She comments that he has changed a lot, but he retorts with irony, saying he doesn't think he's changed that much. Yang A-jun is bothered by his presence but fakes friendliness, asking if he came for the birthday. Seeing the simple cake on the table, Junbo doesn't miss the chance to jab, saying that ordering individual dishes is tacky. With a mocking smile, he suggests at the very least they should have ordered the full menu for the occasion. Yang A-jun gets furious at the comment, but Junbo continues, saying he studied the menu before coming. He explains that the full menu comes with steak and lobster, while the individual dish is just the boring steak. The bully stands up cursing, but the chubby boy isn't even fazed and further criticizes the wine they are drinking. Holding the glass with disdain, he asks if they ordered wine by the glass instead of the whole bottle. He sniffs the drink and makes a face of disgust, claiming he doesn't even need to taste it to know it's cheap wine. The tension at the table is palpable, with the couple not knowing where to hide from so much shame. Jumbo enjoys seeing the humiliation of those who always despised him and thought they were superior. Now it's his turn to show who really runs things, and he is loving every second of this game. Yang A-jun shows a scary and furious smile, thinking our protagonist is a loser. Yang A-jun grabs our boy's collar, screaming at him for acting arrogant, and threatens to remind him of the beatings he used to take. Our hero calmly tells Yang A-jun to keep his hands to himself, warning him not to ruin his new and expensive clothes, showing seriousness and indifference. Shinny interferes, trying to break up the fight between our protagonist and Yang A-jun. Shinny tries to calm Yang A-jun and accuses our protagonist of being the one at fault for provoking Yang A-jun. Jumbo looks at Shinny with a disappointed gaze, expressing disillusionment. The camera focuses on Jumbo, showing his expression of disappointment and frustration with the situation. Yang A-jun, enraged, tries to throw a punch at our protagonist. Our protagonist blocks the punch with ease. With a look of contempt, our boy stops Yang A-jun's punch. Our protagonist looks at Yang A-jun, despising his weakness. Yang A-jun falls to the floor in defeat without understanding what happened. Shinny is shocked and incredulous at the ease with which our protagonist dominated Yang A-jun. The camera shows Shinny surprised at our hero's skill. Our protagonist walks away, leaving Yang A-jun and Shinny on the floor. With a smile, our hero tells Yang A-jun not to overdo it because he has already seen the guy is broke. Bo still reminds the bully of the words he himself used to humiliate him in the past. In the flashback, A-jun confiscated his headphones, telling him to live according to his poor reality. Back in the present, our protagonist throws the same phrase in his face, telling him to accept the wine. Cornered, the bully swipes the card while Jum believes a heap of cash on the counter. After getting revenge, our boy goes to celebrate by eating delicious pork belly at a restaurant. He devours the meat, saying that even after tasting sushi and lobster, that is still his favorite food. Satisfied, he comments that before he ate little due to lack of cash, but today he will eat until he explodes. Suddenly he remembers his little creature and offers a piece of meat to the little Lotto-chan. But the pet wallet remains still, only staring at the food with its expressionless little eyes. Looking closer, our protagonist notices a small bulge on its pink body. That thing moves, and suddenly small cute wings sprout from the creature, leaving the boy frightened. Jumbo is in shock, wondering why on earth wings appeared out of nowhere on his wallet. Then a light turns on in his mind, and he begins to understand the terrible truth behind it. He realizes that the more money he withdraws, the more Lotto-chan evolves, since before it was just an object. He remembers that after withdrawing 65 million won for the first time, the wallet simply gained eyes and started moving as if it were alive. And now, to make it worse, the little creature even develops small cute wings. Our hero does the math and realizes he has already spent 253 million won. He laments for having been so blinded by the cash that he didn't even notice the creature's evolution, reaching the conclusion that the more Lotto-chan evolves, the more his life is decreasing. Despite this, he continues grilling the meat, not caring much about the consequences, because he already knew the risks, and decides he will enjoy life doing everything he always wanted. With this thought, our boy resolves to start by eating pork belly until he explodes. Suddenly a pain hits his body, and he is frightened by that strange sensation. Already at home, he gets on the scale and doesn't believe what he sees, questioning his weight. After all, he ate so much that he reached a record weight in just a single day. Jumbo thinks that at this rate he will die of high cholesterol before the wallet takes his life. Therefore, he holds Lotto-chan and decides he needs to take care of his health, since he cannot die yet. After all, our protagonist still has many things he wishes to do before departing for good. Lying in bed, our hero notes down his plans for the next day, dreaming of expensive foods. Meanwhile, his humble room is a mess with clothes and money scattered across the floor. An old and noisy fan spins slowly, trying to cool the stuffy atmosphere of the room. In the kitchen, a faucet drips non-stop, showing the precariousness of the place where our hero lives. Suddenly, he wakes up with a jump, with his heart racing and drooling from such a deep sleep. Desperate, he sits up in bed, asking for the time and wondering why the alarm didn't go off. With his heart in his mouth, he grabs the phone and glasses, thinking he is late for work, but then his eyes find little Lotto-chan sleeping peacefully on top of the pillow, and a smile of relief appears on his face as he remembers he no longer needs to go to the job. Affectionately, he says good morning to his magic companion, asking her to take good care of him today as well. After all, that was the first time in years that he had a free weekday without needing to work. Sitting in the barbershop, he remembers how he threw the resignation letter in the face of the boss he used to fear. Before, he would break into a cold sweat just thinking about arriving 10 minutes late because he missed the subway. But now, with a pocket full of cash and a new look, he is no longer afraid of any company. Then our hero walks with confidence toward a luxury store, ready to enjoy his new life. With a powerful stride, our hero now understands why the rich are so confident. Before, he felt intimidated just walking around there, but now the designer clothes give him courage. He feels that he can finally blend in with the elite and walk with his head held high without fear. Suddenly, a stunning woman steps out of a luxury car, drawing everyone's attention. Our protagonist is mesmerized by her beauty, wondering if the girl is an idol. He observes her from afar, thinking that this indeed is the true class of the posh neighborhood. Curious about the event taking place, he decides to follow the woman into the building. But as he looks up, he sees that the place is full of adult entertainment advertisements. Jumbo turns all red, telling himself to control his mind so as not to have impure thoughts. He snaps his fingers, trying to focus and not forget his true objectives. Our boy reminds himself that pure love is the best and that he must not stray from the path. But right at that moment, a beautiful blonde appears in front of him, catching his attention. The boy blushes instantly, finding the girl extremely pretty, and is left speechless. She praises his style and out of nowhere asks if he has a little free time. Our hero is jaw-dropped as he realizes he is being hit on for the first time in his life. Our boy understands that money bought his style, hair, and even his new confident attitude. And it is precisely because he has cash that now beautiful women simply approach our protagonist. Excited by the chance, he replies instantly that yes, and that he has all the time in the world for her. However, the girl pulls out a camera and asks point blank how much all that fancy look of his cost. Jumbo is completely speechless upon realizing he is being recorded by the blonde. She guesses the look cost more than 10 million won and asks him to reveal the total value. Our hero plays it cool, saying he bought everything without looking at the price, and the YouTuber is impressed. Then he remembers he has the receipt since he just bought the clothes and opens the bag. The girl celebrates, saying the receipts prove the pieces are authentic and not counterfeits. With a smile, she takes the receipts and says she will calculate the total value to make it easier for him. The result of the sum is an absurd 18,220,000 won spent on the look. Later at home, he sees the video already posted and thinks about what talent he could show on the internet. Suddenly, a direct message notification pops up on his phone screen, catching his attention. The message is massive, with a sad story and a desperate request for 50 million won. Our boy is shocked because now he understands that the talk about celebrities receiving DMs asking for cash is real. He realizes his mistake was having given his personal profile to the YouTuber without thinking about the consequences. The sudden attention is so much that he thinks about deleting the account just to have a bit of peace. But while scrolling through the messages, he sees a profile that catches his eye: Princess Rin's. The shock is so great that our hero spits out all the drink he was having at the moment. He is in shock, wondering if that is the real Princess Rin from his school days. His mind travels to a photo of her at the beach, and he cannot believe she noticed him. With the phone in hand, he panics because Princess Rin was simply unreachable. After all, she was the goddess of the high school, a true celebrity among all the students. Her popularity was so absurd that even the bullies Yang A-jun and L-sik respected her. Basically, the girl dominated the whole school just with her beauty and her imposing manner. Our boy breaks into a cold sweat, thinking they are from different worlds and had never talked. Even so, trembling with nerves, he decides he needs to reply to her message no matter what. He sends a simple greeting saying it has been a long time since they last saw each other. And to his surprise, the message is viewed instantly, leaving our hero stunned. Right after, she replies laughing and commenting that he remains exactly the same as always. He goes into ecstasy upon realizing that Princess Rin, the school goddess, actually remembers him. The girl strikes up a conversation asking what he was doing, and our hero already imagines 1,000 things. After all, the story of two former classmates reuniting by chance after years is the perfect script for a cliché romance, and our protagonist is already daydreaming. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and Lotto Chan jumps excitedly onto its owner's head. Our boy goes to answer the door, thinking it is the food delivery he had ordered. He opens the door, distracted while chatting with Rin and eating his snacks. However, as he raises his gaze, he is in shock with the totally unexpected visit. Our protagonist wonders what on earth is happening and how they got there. For standing at his door are the two bullies Yang A-jun and Jin Il-sik with wicked smiles. L-siak explains it was easy because he made a membership card at the store and left the address. The guy grabs him by the shoulder, telling him not to make a scene because they have a lot to talk about. Entering the house, they mock the mess and the smell of mold, asking if he is going to move. Our hero is furious because the cowards are attacking him on his own territory. He realizes the two came together to take revenge for the humiliation they suffered at the restaurant. With a serious look, our hero stares at the two bullies, ready for whatever comes. Amidst the tension, he despairs, remembering Lotto Chan, and looks for the little creature around the house. He knows that to others she is just an object, but now it is an emergency, and he needs to protect her. Carefully, our protagonist picks up Lotto Chan and holds her tight in his hands to keep her safe. Suddenly, Yang A-jun calls him, and our boy turns around with a defiant look on his face. The two approach with fake smiles, saying they need to talk about some matters. Our hero clenches his fist and warns that he is no longer the same loser as before and that he will fight back. He says that no matter what they do, he will use his money to take revenge in kind. With a furious look, he prepares for the fight, totally willing to go after both of them. But to his surprise, the bullies kneel in front of him as if they were asking for forgiveness. Yang A-jun asks him to think of it as an investment and makes a tempting proposal. He asks to borrow 100 million, promising to pay back 120 million in just 1 year. Il-sik chimes in, saying they were scammed by stock market swindlers. Yang A-jun rebukes him for telling the truth, and our protagonist stands there shocked by the scene. The bully continues his speech, saying that the larger the capital, the larger the return, and that is why they came. Our hero realizes that money has the power to make people bow down before him. Yang A-jun then tries to act like a friend, saying it is fate and that they should forget the past. He even has the nerve to say the world works like this, with the rich helping the poor. Bo is shocked by so much falsity and the nerve of the two guys in front of him. The scene reminds him of the past when the two cornered him to steal his money. Back then he was assaulted while trying to protect the cash for his sister's gift. The bully threatened him by pulling his hair while a knife lay on the floor near him. After taking the money, they mocked him, saying that those who have nothing should crawl. Back in the present, our boy throws the same logic in their faces, questioning this change. Then he makes a counterproposal, saying that before lending the cash he wants to hit each of them once. Il-sik is furious with the boldness and curses our protagonist without thinking twice. But Yang A-jun whispers to his friend to get in on the game since the chubby guy's punches are weak. Our hero walks past them, reminding them that they need to think about the 50 million they want. Il-sik accepts with disdain and even asks him not to hit his face since he needs to work. Bo then positions himself in front of him, asking if one punch will really erase the past. Without wasting time, our hero launches a powerful punch in the direction of the first bully. Il-sik falls to the floor with the impact of the blow, which was much stronger than he imagined. Yang A-jun is in shock, seeing the strength of the chubby guy who knocked out his friend with a single blow. He cannot believe the bizarre scene he just witnessed in front of him. After all, the guy was a crybaby in the past and now he is doing an Oscar-worthy performance. Il-sik throws himself on the floor, crying and screaming in pain, proving he would sell his soul for money. It's Yang A-jun's turn, who brags, saying he has a hard face and that he can hit as much as he wants. Our hero then prepares to deliver an even stronger punch to the second bully. The blow hits the guy's chin dead center, who feels the impact of an immense force. The strike is so violent that Yang A-jun simply blacks out for a few moments. Meanwhile, at the hospital, our hero's sister talks peacefully with her brother over the phone. She says she is receiving a visit from some work friends and hangs up to give them attention. The friends comment on how well the siblings get along and how Bo is a great younger brother. One of them says they were worried about the medical leave, but that now they are relieved. And the other praises the brother for having put her in a luxury room and wishes for her quick recovery. One of the friends remembers that another colleague was also diagnosed with the same disease the previous year. Our hero's sister becomes pensive, wondering if the cause might be stress or pollution. On the other side of town, Bo arranges to go to the hospital the next day to visit his sister. Even after talking to her, he cannot calm down and takes a deep breath, trying to relax. The reason for his nervousness is Princess Rin's message inviting him for a date. He freaks out because he has never been alone with a woman who wasn't his relative in his life. Suddenly, a hand touches his shoulder, and he turns around, startled by the unexpected contact. Princess Rin pinches his cheek with a playful smile, leaving our hero confused. She greets him excitedly, saying it has been a long time since they saw each other, since school. The boy turns completely red and in shock with the proximity of the most popular girl. He doesn't believe that Princess Rin herself is touching him, and his heart races. She suggests that they eat something first, since he probably hasn't eaten anything yet. Our boy loses his senses for a moment but soon recovers from that dizziness. Excited, he points to a nearby restaurant, saying he found a good place. But before he can run off, Princess Rin grabs him by the arm to stop him. She says she already has a reservation and invites him to go along, making our hero freak out inside. He gets so nervous and red that he can barely process what is happening beside him. Because of this, our boy doesn't even remember the way to the restaurant or the conversation they had. But one thing he recalls very well: the look from everyone on the street at the two lovebirds. For both men and women stared at that unlikely couple walking together on the sidewalk. Our protagonist feels Princess Rin's soft skin on his sweaty and sticky arm. And because of that, all his nerves focus only on his left elbow. Soon after, they arrive at the restaurant, where Rin reserved a place with only private rooms. Inside, the air conditioning was so strong that the place felt like a true freezer. But even with all that cold, our hero sweated as if he were in a sauna from being so nervous. Princess Rin then turns and asks if he is hot, because he is sitting next to her. With that, she approaches and touches his face, commenting that he is sweating quite a bit. The girl even asks if everything is okay, because our hero seemed to be feeling very unwell. However, Rin got so close that our protagonist's heart almost stopped for good. She leans in his direction, and the boy panics, thinking they are going to touch. In the blink of an eye, our boy widens his eyes, completely desperate with the situation. Then, in a swift movement, he grabs the girl's wrist to stop her from advancing further. Our protagonist calls her name, still not believing what he just did. Rin is surprised and asks if by any chance someone is hitting him or bothering him. Our hero is confused by the question, but soon she shows a bandage for his pimples. Rin then points to her own patches on her arm and asks if they are not for bruises. She explains that the larger one is a cold patch while the smaller one is a hot patch, and that using both types together means she applied them depending on the condition of the injury. Then she asks again who is hitting him and tells him to ask for help if he needs it. Suddenly, the girl starts laughing a lot, covering her mouth with her hand and leaving our hero confused. She stands up with a smile and asks what kind of crazy person would have the courage to hit her, because in fact those bruises are from pole dancing due to friction with the bar. Soon after, she strikes a pose and says a body like hers isn't achieved without effort. Our protagonist is jaw dropped, imagining Princess Rin pole dancing, and thinks it's incredible. Then she says she is hungry and asks what our boy wants to eat so they can order right away. The menu they ordered was a dish that cost 230,000 won. Even though it was expensive, the portion was tiny, but the presentation looked like a work of art. And with every dish that arrived, a waiter changed their cutlery at the table. While eating the fancy food, our hero remembered the bibimbap he ate days ago. After all, once a week his sister would make a huge bowl of bibimbap for them at home. She would throw all the leftovers into a metal bowl for them to eat together with spoons. Since it was a waste to throw it away, they devoured everything as if it were bibimbap. Until now, our protagonist only saw food as a way to fill his stomach. But now he realizes that people with money appreciate food in a different way. Rin asks why he is so serious, and our hero replies that he found the food delicious. With a smile, she says that now he is truly talking to her. She comments that before he was so quiet she thought she would have to talk to herself. Our protagonist understands that this is why the rich have no wrinkles and are kind, because a girl like Princess Rin has been very attentive to him the whole time. He observes her walking by his side and feels happy for the attention he's receiving. The boy realizes that from the beginning the girl was always taking care of him, and the image of her approaching him again leaves him jaw-dropped once more. Suddenly he remembers something and wonders what Rin wanted to do with his sweat earlier. Our hero jumps out of his chair because he forgot something very important. He grabs his phone and answers a desperate call from a real estate agency. They called to remind him that he has 30 minutes left for his property visit. Our hero apologizes and says he had an unforeseen event, asking if he can go tomorrow. The realtor warns that he cannot guarantee the house will be available as there are many interested people. Rin hears the conversation and asks if he was going to look at a house, leaving our hero confused. With a smile, she says that if it is because of her, he doesn't need to worry about postponing. Furthermore, the girl even offers to go along with him to look at the property. The place is a new complex with huge buildings well spaced from each other. The condominium has beautiful walking paths and green areas for the residents. Additionally, the management fees are reasonable, and there are convenient shops nearby. The realtor welcomes him with open arms, showing the unit ready to move in. He says it is a 30-pie apartment perfect for a newlywed couple. Our hero turns all red and tries to explain that they are just friends. He says that in fact his sister is going to live there alone, and that all of this is an absurdity, but our protagonist doesn't like the view and asks if there isn't a place with a better landscape. The realtor then says there was one on the floor above, but someone has already signed the contract. Our hero asks if the realtor can contact the person who signed that contract, and without thinking twice he offers to pay triple the deposit for them to cancel the deal. The realtor is shocked by the proposal, and our boy even says he will pay for the move, but Princess Rin interrupts him, saying that with that cash he could buy a larger place. She doesn't understand why he wants that apartment so much if he can have a better one. Then our protagonist explains that living in that condominium was his sister's dream, and if triple is not enough, he warns that he can cover any offer they make. His mind goes back to the day his sister held a rice cooker, all happy with the idea. He remembers the two walking at night with appliances they received as gifts. At that time, his sister noticed the bandages on his arm and asked if he was hurt. Our hero disguised it, saying it was just muscle pain from physical education class. But the truth is those injuries were from when the bullies assaulted him at school. Because he could not by any means tell his sister that he was suffering from bullying, she worried and asked where it hurt because he needed to use the right patch. And our protagonist felt guilty for being a brother who couldn't even buy a gift. The sister comforts him, saying she doesn't give him enough allowance, and he promises to buy everything she wants. Excited, she points to the luxury condominium and asks him to buy one of those in the future. Our hero despairs, saying that even being rich, that is impossible, and she laughs, saying it's a joke. She says she just wanted a house with a beautiful view, since theirs has a wall blocking the window. Back in the present, the former resident accepts triple the deposit, and our hero signs the contract. And so that house with the dream landscape finally became his sister's home. That same day, our protagonist also signed the contract for his own house. He rented the tallest residence in the country, a luxury apartment on the 54th floor. Princess Rin is shocked to learn that the rent is short-term and without a deposit. She whispers that the monthly value is almost the annual salary of an average person and suggests a deposit. At Rin's words, our hero is speechless and cannot say absolutely anything. After all, he cannot tell her that his life decreases with every cent he spends day by day. Now that he's secured his sister's house, he fills the cupboard with cash for the hospital expenses. With this, he will accept death without regrets and asks Lotto Chain to take good care of him. But suddenly the doorbell rings, interrupting his thoughts and putting him on alert. Our hero walks to the door, wondering who it could be since he didn't order any delivery. Looking at the intercom, he is completely shocked by the totally unexpected visit. For at his door is none other than Princess Rin, Chan herself in person. He cannot believe it and wonders how on earth she managed to get there so fast. Without beating around the bush, the girl enters and asks directly if she can move in with him. Our protagonist freaks out at the question and doesn't understand the reason for that crazy request. Then she explains she was evicted because she lost her entire deposit for being late on rent. Our boy is confused because he thought her family was rich due to social media. After all, she lived posting photos in luxury hotels and super expensive restaurants. Because of this, he doesn't understand how she went to the omakase without worrying about the cash. but the girl explains that it wasn't with her money and that all of it was sponsorship, because with followers and good looks she gets expensive sponsorships very easily. However, she says that sponsorship is different from money and that she receives nothing in cash. Then she asks to live with him until she saves up a deposit and approaches with a smile. Our hero turns all red and speechless with the proximity of the pretty girl. The idea of living together with Princess Rin Chen leaves our hero in a complete panic. He tries to think calmly, remembers that cohabitation with a goddess is quite common. Just like a super pretty girl who appears out of nowhere in some random guy's life, or even those characters that are actually a computer in human form. So our hero concludes that maybe this situation is surprisingly normal. Back to reality, our protagonist is still standing not knowing what to do. He then asks about her clothes, and thinks since the girl didn't bring anything. She then explains that since she was kicked out of her house, she couldn't grab her things, because while she was out the landlord simply changed the password to her door. For that reason she ended up with nowhere to go and no clothes to change into. Then the girl asks if she can borrow some of his clothes for now. Soon after, Rin appears wearing a giant Hatsumiko t-shirt, and our protagonist has a cuteness overload seeing the girl in his clothes. He is so mesmerized that he doesn't even care about Miku and questions if 3D has surpassed 2D. The girl calls his name while our hero turns all red with shame. Rin asks if our boy is hungry, so she offers to cook something for him, and thus the magic begins. Princess Rin is breaking 2 eggs in a pan as our hero watches everything while wearing a Hatsune Miku t-shirt. Rin stirs the pan while our protagonist is in the background flustered and discreetly takes a photo with his phone. We see Rin cooking from behind, and our boy thinks that she is cooking for him in his house and feels happy in that comfort. Junbo blushes and fantasizes that this looks like Newlywed life, so he sighs with emotion and feels happy. Rin calls him saying the food is ready, and our hero agrees to eat Rin's food and smiles. They are sitting at the table as she asks if the ramen is good since there weren't many ingredients, while our boy says he usually orders delivery. A detailed view of the ramen shows it looks very watery and the noodles are overcooked, making Junbo shocked and stunned. Our protagonist holds the pan, comparing it to the instant ramen he usually eats, while Rin admits there might be too much water. Rin seems stressed while stirring the pan, so she says she is not good at adjusting the water for ramen, and Junbo thinks she blames herself. Junbo starts eating fast. It is perfect for a night snack, and that too much salt is bad, so he tries to reassure her. He gives thanks for the meal and starts eating the watery ramen as our hero eats calmly, slowly, and without a rush. Rin smiles, looking happy that he is eating, and she feels good seeing our boy eat, so she calms down. Junbo looks pensive while he eats, having a realization about life in the moment. Our hero thinks that when the time comes to die, he will remember this moment and find it too precious while they are at the table talking casually. The next day, Lotto-chan was sleeping peacefully in the cupboard surrounded by stacks of money. Our hero was worried she might get suffocated, but it seems the little creature liked the place. After all, he thought that animals like dark and cramped places to hide. After checking on his companion, he wondered if Princess Rin had already fallen asleep. But looking at the living room, he was startled to see the girl watching Attack on Titan on the TV. Excited, our protagonist says he is also rewatching it, and she confirms she knows the anime. He then starts a speech saying that liking the anime is a trend, and that a true otaku understands the work. Princess Rin just laughs at his seriousness, finding all that excitement very funny. Then with a smile she invites him to watch together since he didn't seem able to sleep. Our hero sits beside her and immediately starts questioning her on how many times she has watched it. On the screen was the famous scene where the soldiers dedicate their hearts for humanity, and the two stayed there on the floor watching the anime side by side like a true couple. Our protagonist freaks out seeing the scene of Captain Levy, and Rin ends up falling asleep on his shoulder. The girl simply blacked out right there, tired after a day full of emotions. Meanwhile, our hero was paralyzed, not knowing what to do with the school goddess sleeping on him. With a red face, he stammers Princess Rin's name, unable to believe what is happening. Our hero thinks the joke has gone too far and doesn't know how to get out of that situation. But he soon realizes she isn't faking and that she really fell asleep right there. Desperate, he wonders what to do since the most popular girl in school fell asleep on him. The scene cuts to the next day, showing the buildings illuminated by the morning sun. And Princess Rin was sleeping peaceful on the sofa covered with a sheet our hero placed. Suddenly she wakes up and rubs her eyes, still drowsy from the night's sleep. Our protagonist appears already ready to go out, and the girl asks if he is awake. With a yawn she says good morning and mentions she ended up sleeping without even noticing what happened. With a smile he gives a thumbs up, but inside he brags about not having slept at all. After all, he stayed up all night because he was so nervous with the girl by his side. He then says he is going out to pay the remainder of his sister's house since the deadline is today. Princess Rin says goodbye and stretches on the sofa without a care in the world, but before he leaves the girl calls him and asks to use his computer for a while. Our hero agrees and says there is a laptop on the desk in the smaller room for her to use. Later that night, Princess Rin stared into the void with a mysterious look. When our hero returned home, he realized the girl was no longer there, and to his despair the money in Lotto-chan had also disappeared from the cupboard. He screams his magic companion's name, completely desperate with the situation. A few hours earlier, our protagonist was finalizing the purchase of his sister's house. The realtor said he only needed to deposit the amount and he was ready to transfer. With the phone in hand, he felt happy to finally have a home for his family, because since their parents left, they lived moving from one tiny room to another. A few years ago, they moved to a 2-bedroom house and finally had space, but even so, the two argued over who would get the best room in the house. Now with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, there will be no more fights over space between them. He imagined his sister happy with a husband and even a child in the new apartment. And even after departing, he hoped she would be very happy in that new home. With this thought, he finally made the transfer, and the purchase was successfully completed. Our hero then handed all the documents to the lawyer to handle the registration, but suddenly his phone vibrates and he sees it is a call from his sister's hospital. Our hero stands still for a moment, processing that unexpected call. The scene shifts and we see his sister lying in the hospital bed in serious condition. Upon arriving there, our protagonist finds the doctor beside her bed with a serious face. Desperate, he asks how she could have worsened so much from one day to the next. The doctor explains that the blood tests showed a sharp drop in her neutrophils. Our boy is in shock with the news and cannot understand what is happening. The doctor says she has a fever and needs a medicine that is not covered by the insurance. His mind freezes on the information that his sister's neutrophils decreased drastically. Then he remembers the rule that with every withdrawal, something related to him would also decrease. And with a wicked smile, the Money King reminds him of the terrible consequence of his actions. In that moment, our hero understands that the price was the life of his only blood relative. Because for every cent he took, his sister's health worsened more and more. He realizes that all this time he was taking money while consuming her life. In a panic, he runs desperately, telling himself it is not yet too late to save her. He believes that if he returns the money to Lotto, he can reverse the situation, and with that his sister will surely be fine and recover completely from the disease. While running back home, a heavy rain begins to fall across the entire city. Upon arriving, he sees his wet shoes and his wallet thrown on the floor of the entrance. Desperate, our hero runs to the cupboard and realizes all the money is gone. Furthermore, his magic companion Lotto had also disappeared from there. He begins to wonder if Princess Rin had stolen everything while he was out, but then the terrible truth about the magic wallet's rule hits him like a lightning bolt. The Money King appears in his mind, reminding him of the 3 cases where he would lose the wallet. The first is when something related to him disappears completely because of the withdrawals, and our hero's eyes widen as he understands the gravity of the situation. Because his sister's life decreased so much that Lotto simply vanished. With a broken heart, he screams his magic companion's name desperately. The pain is so great that he cries and screams in agony, unable to believe what happened. But even devastated, he swears he will not let his sister depart like that. On his knees, our hero begs, saying he doesn't need money and can become a beggar. Crying, he asks for the money to return to Lotto-chan, and for everything to go back to normal. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and stops crying for a moment. Under the sofa, he sees something pink and furry hiding in the darkness. It is Lotto-chan appearing in a new form, looking like a stuffed animal. Relieved, our hero runs to it, saying he thought it had disappeared forever. But he notices that its fur has changed and wonders if it evolved again. With no time to admire, he picks up the creature and says his sister is in critical condition. Then our protagonist begins to stuff wads of money into Lotto-chan's mouth, and to his surprise, it begins to eat the money as if it were its food. Happy, he realizes the money for his sister's house is still kept there, because Princess Rin only stole the cash that was in the cupboard and not what he kept elsewhere. With this, he believes that if Lotto-chan eats everything, his sister's health will improve. Our hero then encourages the little creature to eat faster to restore her health. But suddenly Lotto-chan stops eating and begins to tremble in his hands. Suddenly Lotto-chan vomits all the money had eaten all over our hero. The bills fly through the air and our protagonist stands there without understanding what happened. He begs it not to spit everything out and asks the creature not to do that to him. Crying, our hero implores Lotto-chan to save his sister at any cost. But the little creature just holds a bill in its mouth with an expressionless look. At the hospital, the doctor informs that her neutrophils have stabilized and they can continue treatment. Our protagonist gives thanks emotionally because he thought his sister was going to die because of him. He cries with relief knowing she is okay, that he wasn't responsible for the worsening. The doctor comes from saying chemotherapy is a marathon and not a race, and that during the treatment there will be ups and downs in the patient's health all the time. He then asks for our hero to be her strength because the sister is holding on tight. With a smile of relief, our protagonist promises he will be the support she needs. Leaving the office, he sees the overcrowding of the hospital and reflects on what happened. Because when Lotto-chan spat out the money, he felt he had killed her with his own hands. But now he understands that what decreases is not her life but something else related to him. He breaks into a cold sweat, wondering what is actually decreasing with every withdrawal he makes. Our hero then takes a deep breath and tries to calm down so as not to panic again. He decides not to think about it because as long as it's not his sister, the rest doesn't matter. After all, he did all that for her and his only focus now is saving her no matter what. Arriving in the hospital room, he sees his sister with her back turned, looking out the window. She turns around and is surprised to see him standing there, in the middle of the room watching her. With a smile, the girl greets him and asks why he is all sweaty. Seeing her worrying about him, our protagonist becomes even more determined. He then makes another promise to himself and to the person he loves most in the world. Our hero asks if she has any wish or something wants to do and promises to fulfill everything, because he will make all her dreams come true no matter the cost. But besides taking care of his sister, he knew he had one more thing to resolve. Sitting at his desk, our hero prepares to deal with another problem, because he won't let Princess Rin escape unpunished after everything she did, and with a determined look he swears he will take revenge on the girl who betrayed him. With a smile, the sister says there is one thing she wishes to do before departing. She mentions that her illness is like a workplace accident and our hero gets confused. The two walk together through the hospital while she explains the situation to her brother. She says that a few days ago her coworkers went to visit her at the hospital, and they wished her well and said they would wait for her when she was discharged, but during the conversation one of them mentioned that another colleague also had the same disease. The sister became pensive with the information because the other girl resigned the previous year. Suddenly she is surprised to see her boss, the general manager, standing in the hallway. He explains that per internal rules he cannot grant medical leave indefinitely, and that the other colleagues are overwhelmed because of her absence at work. So for everyone's sake he suggests that she resign to focus on the treatment. The manager hands over a resignation letter already prepared for her to sign right then, and with a look of disgust he promises to take care of all her labor rights. The sister takes the document in silence, still processing that absurd proposal. She asks for some time to think, but the manager stares at her as if he wouldn't take no for an answer. With a fake smile the manager says she can think today, but tomorrow he'll be back to collect the letter. However, the sister surprises him by questioning if her illness couldn't be a workplace accident. The man gets irritated instantly and slams the table hard, losing all his composure. He stands up furious and calls her full name to try and intimidate the poor woman. Then the boss says that sick people always try to blame others for their problems, and he further accuses her of being selfish for wanting to harm the company and her colleagues. Approaching, he says they are doing their best for her, but her attitude is discouraging. Furthermore, he threatens that if the leave ends, she will be fired for cause anyway. The guy then asks for her wise judgment, basically forcing the girl to resign. Back in the present, she tells our hero that the company calls every day asking about the letter. The sister thinks it's strange because they could just fire her, but they insist she sign the paper. But the doctor said the cause of the illness cannot be confirmed, which complicates everything. Even so, with a determined look, she says she will try to prove it while she is still alive. Sitting on the bench, she talks about a savings account she was making for our protagonist and asks if she can use that cash to get the approval for the workplace accident. But to her surprise, our hero refuses the proposal instantly with a serious look. He says the money she saved is his and that he will take it all for himself. The sister is left without understanding but soon conforms to her younger brother's decision. With a determined look, our protagonist warns that he will find out everything with his own money. In that moment, he finally understood the purpose of having gained those powers. After all, in comics, when protagonists gain special abilities, they hate them. And with great power comes great responsibility and a life mission, just like those heroes who fight for justice only as a simple hobby. And this mission becomes the main life goal of the protagonist of any story. For that reason, he understands that Lotto Chan didn't appear just to fulfill his wishes. And while writing his to-do list, he realized his true purpose. Because he shouldn't spend money only for himself, but rather to change the world. That night, our hero was more determined than ever to make a difference. With Lotto Chan on his desk, he says that together they will change the world for the better. And his first step is to find a labor lawyer specialized in workplace accidents. He enters an online consultation platform to know what to do first. But upon opening the laptop, he is shocked by what he sees on the computer screen, because the device was logged into Princess Rin's account and he could see all the conversations. Our hero despairs and thinks about logging out because using someone else's PC is wrong. However, a specific message in the chat catches his attention before he leaves the account. He reads a message from someone named Jahejan who says he has 500 million in cash. Our protagonist is in shock with the information and cannot believe what he reads. Then he clicks on the conversation and tries to find out more about that suspicious message. But suddenly a notification of a deleted chat room pops up on the laptop screen, and shortly after he is forcibly disconnected from Princess Rin Chan's account. Our hero realizes she saw the login notification and deleted everything to leave no trace. He regrets not checking sooner because of his older sister's situation. But now he has the proof that Princess Rin stole his 500 million from the cupboard. Sitting at his desk, our protagonist prepares for his great revenge. With a furious look, he swears he will find the girl and make her pay for everything. Meanwhile, in a bar, the two bullies Yang A, Jun and Jin Il-sik were drinking frustrated. They were getting drunk, trying to forget the humiliation they suffered at the hands of our hero. Il-sik asks if his friend is going to give up on the money, and A. Jun gets furious at the question. He screams that there is nothing to be done because getting beaten more won't help at all. The guy remembers that his friend was also beaten and knows very well the chubby boy's strength. Because if our protagonist goes after them with everything, nothing will be left of the two. And even if they attack together, our hero will finish them off easily. After all, the power difference between them is absurd, and there's no way to win the fight. The two stay in silence for a moment, remembering the beating they took at his house. Because once fear settles in the mind, it is very difficult to get rid of it. Suddenly, one of their phones vibrates on the table, catching both of their attention. The friend asks who sent a message and he replies that it was the fatty Chian. Il-Seek is startled by the unexpected message and is curious about its content. He reads the message and is surprised to see our hero is calling them to his house. The bully gets irritated thinking the fatty is acting like the boss just because he hit them. Jun is incredulous upon reading the message because the fatty promised to give money if they went to visit him. And upon arriving at the indicated address, they face an absurdly tall and fancy luxury condominium. Entering the penthouse, they are jaw-dropped, calculating that the rent there costs at least 20 million. But our hero cuts the tourism short, telling them to stop snooping around the house to get straight to the point. The bullies get irritated thinking the loser is acting with arrogance just because he got rich out of nowhere. Their minds consider a surprise attack, imagining that if they went at him together they could beat him. However, the body's memory is stronger and they visualize our protagonist easily dodging everything and immediately following up with a devastating counter-attack capable of crushing their bones in an instant. Fear takes over because they know they would be completely massacred by that man's raw strength. They break into a cold sweat remembering the previous beating as the body instinctively recognizes imminent danger. After all, once the fear of death is imprinted on the soul, it does not disappear so easily. Suddenly, our hero catches their attention, bringing the duo back to the reality of the negotiation. He proposes that if they recover the cash stolen by the woman, they can keep 20% of the value. Greed speaks louder and they accept on the spot, saying that solving problems like this is their specialty, and with the ultimate nerve they fake friendship, talking about loyalty while our boy feels disgust. The blonde decides to leave this friendship talk for later and gets straight to the point, asking how much cash needs to be recovered. Our hero raises an open hand and drops the bombshell, saying the total value is 500 million won. The two are jaw-dropped, staring at his hand while trying to process that absurd amount of money. The brunette slaps his leg excited and shouts, agreeing that Bo is definitely not their friend at all. Immediately the two kneel on the floor, shouting that from now on he is the supreme boss and owner of everything. The brunette asks for the location, swearing eternal loyalty and saying they will depart for the mission right now. Our protagonist observes from above the two former bullies humiliated at his feet, ready to obey. He adjusts his glasses with a serious air and accepts their submission to start the immediate hunt plan. With a voice full of rage, he reveals the name of the culprit, stammering a bit when speaking of the so-called Princess Rin. He confirms that the thief is exactly the famous girl they know, leaving his new lackey shocked. The brunette cannot believe the boss was keeping in touch with the school goddess and asks how that happened. Il-Seek questions if she called first, and our hero shows the phone, confirming it was via direct message. He explains that the algorithm brought the two together and she struck up a conversation after seeing his rich posts on the network. The two look at the screen, dying of envy, but soon the blonde's expression changes to strong suspicion. He points out a flaw in the story. Il-Seok laughs, saying they will solve the relationship later, and asks how much needs to be recovered. Our hero answers calmly that the stolen amount is 500 million won. The two are wide-mouthed in total shock at the astronomical sum they just heard. The brunette gets excited, saying this is their specialty and they can leave it to them. He hugs his friend, faking loyalty and saying that these are the times when friends help each other. But our protagonist looks with contempt and questions if they really have that kind of relationship. Jun gets furious, thinking the loser is acting with arrogance just because he has money. Our hero tells him to stop looking around and focus on the main subject of the conversation. The blonde stares with rage, not believing the chubby boy's audacity in giving them orders. He screams at his friend, reminding him that he knows the danger very well since he also took a beating. Their minds project what would happen if our protagonist decided to fight for real. They visualize their bones being broken and their bodies being destroyed with ease, realizing that even if they join forces against him, the result would be a humiliating defeat. A shiver runs down the spine of both as they feel the overwhelming difference in power on their skin, for they know that once fear is planted in the heart, it never goes away. The scene shifts to Rin's past as a child being brutally kicked while her father cursed her as annoying. The man screamed that she looked like her mother, while the girl, fallen on the floor, didn't understand the reason for such violence. In those times when the mother wasn't home, he took all his rage out on the defenseless girl, calling her useless. And when the mother was present, the violence turned against her, with the husband madly accusing her of betrayal. Hidden behind the door, little Rin saw her father threatening to kill her mother because of his sickly and senseless jealousy. The woman screamed for help, desperate, but the girl, paralyzed with fear, couldn't do absolutely anything to help. Until one day, feeling she would truly die if she stayed there, she locked herself in the bathroom and called the police in a panic. Hearing the officers enter the house, her heart filled with hope, thinking that nightmare would finally end. However, outside, the aggressor used his manipulative charm, talking to the police as if he were a good man. He made up a sad story of his suffering father, and to the girl's horror, she heard friendly laughter coming from the hallway. The door opened, and instead of a rescue, the officer just told her to obey her father and stop creating trouble for nothing. The officer even threatened her, saying that if she called again for nonsense, he himself would scold her next time. Before leaving, the guard asked the father not to scare the child, and the monster agreed with a fake and humble smile. But as soon as the police left, his expression changed, and he grabbed his belt, making the girl beg for forgiveness on the floor. That was the day she was beaten the most in her entire life, learning the hard way. There was no justice for her. After the policeman left, Rin was forced to run away and hide. She spent her days wandering around the playground trying to avoid her violent father at all costs. Until one day, tired and hungry, she found a smiling boy playing around there. This boy was always seen beside his sister, and the two seemed very happy. They shared snacks and laughed together, and the little girl observed everything with envy, because while they had each other, she was completely alone in the world. One day, returning from the convenience store, she celebrated for having some change left over. Relieved for not having been beaten by her father, she went out skipping and humming down the street. But the happiness was short-lived. Upon seeing that the happy boy was crying that day, the boy looked into the playground mirror ashamed of his dirty clothes. Rin approached curious and saw he was trying to clean his bruised face. She identified with his pain because she also lived in fear and full of bruises. However, unlike her, the boy had someone who cared and truly looked after him. She heard his sister calling him worried and saw how much they loved each other. And in that moment, little Rin wished she had someone like that in her miserable life. The reason for the beating was having forgotten to buy the drink, which left her father furious. He screams, asking how she could be so stupid to forget something so simple. On the floor, she accepts the violence, thinking that if she were smarter, she wouldn't be beaten so much. To escape that, she starts hiding in the playground equipment, trembling with cold. Huddled there, she hopes her father drinks until he falls asleep so she can enter the house. However, the man finds her again and grabs her, ready for another session of violence. He questions the reason for the tears, and the girl realizes she is crying for the first time. A deep sadness sprouts in her chest because she had never cried before in those moments. This only makes the aggressor angrier, and he bellows orders for the girl to stop crying. With a psychotic look, he raises the umbrella to deliver a definitive blow to her. But suddenly a loud crack is heard and the strike is interrupted in mid-air, surprising everyone. Small but firm hands hold the object, preventing it from hitting the defenseless girl. The father is in shock and screams, asking who is the wretch that dared to interfere. It was the smiling boy, who now displayed a serious look, holding the end of the umbrella. He places himself in front of her and screams, questioning why an adult is beating a child. He screamed so much that Rin stayed in silence, observing his courage with admiration. That moment marked the beginning of a friendship that seemed to be her salvation. But back in the present, in the improvised hiding place, Rin cries, remembering the past. She holds back tears, wondering why fate placed her in this situation. Meanwhile, a mysterious man observes everything with a cold and calculating look. He approaches slowly, enjoying her despair as if it were a spectacle. The girl notices his presence and huddles even more, trying to protect herself. The man smiles sinisterly, asking if she is enjoying the memory. He reveals that he knows everything about her past, including about the abusive father. Rin is paralyzed with fear upon realizing that stranger knows her secrets. He continues, provoking, saying she was always a coward who ran from problems. But now there is nowhere left to run, and she will have to face her demons. The man extends his hand, offering an easy way out of all that suffering. He promises that if she accepts his help, she will never have to feel fear again in her life. And with a tempting look, he asks if Princess Rin is ready to change her destiny. But the girl does not give in and huddles on the bed, saying she does not want to die. She cries softly, confessing that in truth she is terrified of the idea of departing. But her biggest concern is not for herself, but for her mother, who will be left alone. She fears her mother will suffer too much with the loss, and that leaves her heartbroken. So thinking of her mother's suffering, she concludes that perhaps it is better to die soon, because that way at least she won't have to see her mother crying because of her. Suddenly a voice calls her, pulling her out of her dark and desperate thoughts. She opens her eyes and sees our hero standing at the bedroom door with a serious expression. He asks if she is okay, and the girl widens her eyes, surprised by the visit. But the surprise soon gives way to panic when she remembers the danger he is in. She screams for him to run, warning that the place is dangerous and that he might get hurt. The mysterious man is irritated by the interruption and goes after our protagonist. He screams, asking who is the wretch who dares to disrupt his evil plans. Rin tries to warn again, but it's too late, and the confrontation becomes inevitable. And with a determined look, our hero prepares to face the danger head-on. He says that she went to his store, and he thought about pulling her file. Jun brags, saying he got the address, the phone number, and even the car plate. He asks if the chubby guy forgot they found his house the same way. Our hero stays in silence, realizing that the bullies are also stalkers. Meanwhile, the blonde comments, impressed by the boss's street smarts, and the brunette gets excited, saying that then they should just go there right now. The scene cuts to the three getting into a luxury car ready for the hunt. Jun asks if they can go now, and our protagonist agrees with a serious look. In the backseat, the blonde praises the boss's cleverness, but the brunette asks a question. He comments that Princess Rin went to their store recently with her boyfriend, and whenever she went there, she bought expensive things just to please the guy. The brunette concludes she really loves that guy, must have given the money to him. Our hero locks the steering wheel upon hearing that, because he didn't know about a boyfriend. Il-seok laughs at the misfortune, saying she is a gold digger who stole $500 million, and suggests they call the police as soon as they get the money back from her. He says he did that because there was no other way to discover her whereabouts. The three arrive near the location, and the brunette's expression changes to shock. Jun hunks at a guy on the street, but the brunette tells him to stop being tacky. Our protagonist asks if the bully is also using location tracking. He reveals he got the address, phone, and license plate all at once. The blonde gets scared, asking how he did that, and the brunette calls him an idiot, for he remembers they found Chi and Junbo's house in the same manner, researching registration information without any permission, which is to say illegally. Suddenly, A Jun slams on the brakes upon seeing something unbelievable in front of them. The brunette asks what happened, and the blonde points ahead, shocked. They see a man getting out of a luxury car with a giant bow on top. The blonde comments the car is new and someone must have bought it, but the brunette recognizes the plate and says that is the car Princess Rin bought. Our hero widens his eyes, seeing that the GPS really took him to her house, and concludes that Princess Rin and her boyfriend are definitely living together there. A Jun gets irritated, saying that of all people she went and got mixed up with that kind of scoundrel. He comments that her beauty is being wasted on someone who is worth nothing. Our hero asks if they are going straight to her house, and the brunette excitedly confirms. Il-Seek says he can hardly wait to see the face of the criminal who robbed the boss. But the blonde notices something strange and comments that the boss is being too modest. He asks why with the wealth he has our hero is driving a domestic car, and points to the car seats, which are still covered with the plastic from the store. Our protagonist feels embarrassed and admits that was the only car available. He explains that he bought the vehicle in the morning and came straight from the dealership to pick them up. The two are in shock with the revelation that he bought a car as if it were bread. The brunette praises the boss, saying he is incredible and that he is dying of envy. Suddenly, A Jun brakes sharply upon seeing a red Porsche stopping in front of them. The luxury car stops in the middle of the street, blocking the way and forcing our hero to stop. A man gets out of the Porsche and walks toward their car with an aggressive attitude. The blonde screams, cursing the driver, and asks what on earth he thinks he is doing. The Porsche driver slams the accelerator and charges at them at full speed, making the three scream in pure panic. The impact is inevitable, and the red sports car crashes violently into our hero's vehicle, destroying the front. While the chaos happens on the street, we see a heavily tattooed man sitting on the toilet complaining about his luck in gambling. He smiles victoriously, looking at the phone screen where he just won a bet in an online card game. But his joy is interrupted when a text message arrives at the wrong time, breaking the mysterious subject's concentration. A message shows the crashed car and calls the boss to see the damage outside. Furious, the tattooed man stands up, swearing to finish off whoever dared to touch his new car. Meanwhile, the lackeys wait, and Jin Il-Seek asks if they earn cash for taking a criminal to the police. But Yang A Jun calls him an idiot because common criminals do not have a bounty on their heads. Suddenly, Princess Rin's boyfriend appears, holding a blade ready for whatever comes. The tattooed guy walks down the stairs with a furious look and a weapon in hand. Upon seeing the blade, the two bullies panic, screaming that the guy is crazy. The man screams, telling them to get out of the way because his patience has run out. He runs toward them with the weapon in hand, swearing everyone there will pay dearly. Our hero Jun comments that the guy went crazy over the car photo, and Jin Il-Seek admits he nearly wet himself. Suddenly, the apartment door begins to close, leaving the duo desperate. They run inside, and Yang A Jun praises his friend Jin Il-Seek's quick reflexes, and by a hair the two manage to enter the apartment before the door closes completely. The door then slams hard right in the tattooed man's face, who is left outside. Confused, he wonders what on earth just happened in that situation. Inside the apartment, A Jun notices that the door lock is completely destroyed. He panics because the lunatic outside can break down the door at any moment, but our hero says to find the money in Rin so they can get out of there as fast as possible. Suddenly, they hear a noise and turn around, startled, toward a door in the hallway. However, the main door begins to be forced, and the two run to hold it. On the other side, Rin's boyfriend doesn't understand why the door isn't opening. Then he becomes enraged and tries to force the handle with the help of his sharp blade. The guy peeks through the crack and screams, asking what on earth they are doing in his house. Desperate, A Jun screams to open the door fast before it's too late. But the man begins to stab through the crack of the door, almost hitting the bully's face. He threatens to finish everyone if they don't open the door immediately for him to enter. Il-Seek screams that they are screwed and tells them to pull the door with all their strength. Our protagonist then realizes the guy's arm got stuck and tells him to pull harder. With that, they manage to pull his arm out, but the blade is still stuck in the door. Il-Seek then suggests they pull with enough force to break the blade. The tattooed guy screams from outside, warning he will pick the lock and kill everyone inside. However, Il-Seek has a better idea and suggests opening the door with all their might to knock out the lunatic with the impact. Our hero agrees with the plan and with a serious expression tells them to open the door without any fear. He instructs the two to open on 3 and warns them to dodge as soon as the intruder enters the house. The count begins 1 and 2 while the killer outside prepares for the imminent massacre. On 3, they open the door at once, catching the tattooed man completely off guard at the entrance. The intruder enters stumbling and screaming, confused without understanding who those people are in his house. But he is immediately met by our protagonist, who points a silver weapon straight at his head. With a cold look, our hero warns that this has gone too far and prepares to pull the trigger. And without thinking twice, he fires the gas gun right in the subject's face at point-blank range. The gas cloud hits the man's face with force, making him retreat while coughing non-stop. He tries to protect his face, burning with pain as the gas enters his lungs, leaving him suffocated. Even blind and coughing, the tattooed guy screams in rage, cursing our hero for the surprise attack. In a desperate act, he swings the knife violently in the air, trying to cut anything in front of him. And in the attempt to dodge the deadly blow, our protagonist's weapon ends up falling on the floor far from him. The gas makes the man cough violently but does not decrease his rage for a second. Blind and furious, he begins to swing the knife in all directions, screaming that he was treated like a dog. He swears to kill everyone, and a dangerous lunge the blade passes, scraping our hero's face. The tattooed guy notices the quick dodge and curses our protagonist as he retreats away. Seeing this, the two lackeys panic, thinking the boss has abandoned them to die. The intruder takes the chance and corners the duo in a corner, screaming for them to show themselves. But while he focuses on the two, our hero emerges silently from behind holding an umbrella. Without hesitating, our protagonist brings down the improvised weapon with all his might on the enemy's back. The blow hits the mark, making the man scream in pain and fall to the floor, defeated by the surprise. The two friends look up relieved, calling to each other, unable to believe they survived. Later, while eating a snack, Il-Sik decides to clear a doubt that bothered him. He asks about the violence Rin suffered and why the boss needed to call them to help. After all, our hero's strength is absurd, and he could have dealt with the guy alone without spending anything. Our protagonist then adjusts his glasses and asks, shocked, if they have never watched Demon Slayer. And with a smile of wisdom, he explains that even a powerful attack is useless if it doesn't hit the target. Our hero explains that he knows his strength, but in a real fight his speed and precision are low. For that reason, he says that if something unexpected happens, he will give a signal to the two lackeys. With a serious look, he warns that in that exact moment they need to act without hesitation. Then he screams with all his might, ordering them to grab the enemy immediately. Back in the present, the two obey and jump onto the tattooed man with everything. Il-Sik manages to hold the guy's arm with force to immobilize him first. And Jin helps him hold in the other side with all the strength he can muster. The tattooed man struggles, screaming for them to let him go while the two scream for the boss. Our protagonist then warns that now is the perfect time for the final attack. The tattooed man looks ahead with pure despair, seeing the fist coming in his direction. For our boy prepares to deliver a powerful punch full of grudge. The blow hits the mark, and the impact is so strong that the guy flies back without reaction. The tattooed guy feels the punch with everything, and his face contorts in pain with the violent strike. And with no chance of defense, he falls to the floor, completely knocked out by the blow. The two lackeys are jaw-dropped with the knockout from a single punch by the boss. Il-Sik gets excited with the boss's strength, but Jun tells them to finish this quickly. Then our hero divides the tasks and tells one to look for something to tie him up and the other for the money. With a smile, Il-Sik says he knows the habits of outlaws like that one. He explains that these people generally leave the cash in the bag to flee at any moment. But upon peeking onto the balcony, he sees something much more shocking than just a suitcase of money. The boy lets out a scream of panic that startles our protagonist and the other bully. Desperate, he points to the balcony and screams that he found a human body hidden there. Our hero is in shock because that was Princess Rin's house and now there was a body. Jun asks if he is sure, and Il-Sik says he almost wet himself from so much fear. Without believing it, our protagonist decides to go check himself what is happening. Upon opening the curtain, he stands paralyzed with the terrible scene he finds on the balcony. For he screams the girl's name, unable to believe that Princess Rin is lying on the floor. The two lackeys are also shocked to realize that the body was Princess Rin's, but our hero approaches and realizes she is not gone and that she only fainted. He then warns that they need to untie her and take her to the hospital because she was imprisoned. Our hero then tells the two lackeys to look for the money while he finds something to cut with. Il-Sik already moves forward and hands over a box cutter, saying he also found the cash. The scene then cuts to our protagonist's car following an ambulance at high speed. Inside the car, Jun asks if it was 500 million and says the guy barely spent any. He explains that using cash is bad and deposits are risky, which is why money laundering exists. The lackey further says that if you deposit more than 10 million a day, the government investigates the source. Our hero is in shock because he had never heard of this fund investigation. Jun confirms that if you cannot prove the source, it is illegal money and you go to jail. Our protagonist's mind goes back to the moment he made the deposit transfer. He also remembers when he deposited Lotto Chan's cash directly into his bank account. And even the purchase of his sister's house was all done by electronic transfer. With that, he enters a panic because if he is arrested, he won't be able to take Lotto Chan along. Then the Money King appears in his mind to remind him of one of the wallet's rules. For if he goes 30 days without taking money, the reason for the creature's existence vanishes. Our hero breaks into a cold sweat and realizes he is completely screwed with this situation. The car follows the ambulance, and Jumbo ponders about what Jun said that was only partially correct. Furthermore, he researches on his phone about deposits and withdrawals. Jumbo, using the phone, concludes that moving 10 million isn't that risky after all. Even so, the internet provides details about the investigations. He discovers that only suspicious transactions like money laundering are investigated, and thus he feels relieved. Jumbo thinks with relief that he is not in that much trouble despite all the harm that followed. However, in his thoughts, this applies to his case. In other words, cases like mine. Already in the car, Jun says that deposit and withdrawal information is shared with government agencies. Jun says that our hero should stop pretending to count. Bo looks worried and thinks about everything that happened. Money King appears in his thoughts. He remembers that the king had said something about the money. Flashback to the first encounter with the Money King. The king tells Bo to remember something. Close up of the king with the wallet. He says that the money from the wallet cannot be deposited in regular banks or ATMs. Flashback of Bo holding the wallet. The king says that the only way to put the money in Bo's account is to use a specific ATM on the 28th floor of the gloomy building in Gangnam. Smile of the Money King. Bo in his thoughts believed it was just a condition of use at the time. Flashback of the king giving the wallet to Bo. He thinks it was said right after the 3 conditions were explained. Bo is outside looking at a building. He thinks he followed the map app, and this is the gloomy building. Besides, there were many strange points in the deal, because at the building entrance his face was already registered and entry was approved, and since it was a new building all the floors were empty with no one around. Upon arriving on the 28th floor he came across a completely empty floor, for in that huge place there was only a single ATM installed in the middle of nowhere. And in that enormous area of more than 100 pylon only that ATM was there. It was as if that entire building existed only for that single money machine. Our hero then understands that the money from the wallet has no taxes or traces, and that if he follows the conditions there are no limits to what he can do with the cash. He realizes is a terribly attractive and tempting condition for anyone, because the Money King used freedom as bait, but in the end everything is a big trap. After all, the more he gets addicted to consumption and money, the more he loses something precious. The scene then returns to Princess Rin as a child, seeing our hero defending her from her father. She observed the boy facing the adult without any fear because of her, and that scene stayed marked forever in her memory as something she would never forget. For at that time the child who helped her was the light she needed to move forward, but for interfering the boy ended up taking a very bad beating from her father. Princess Rin was terrified, thinking the boy was going to die there without her being able to do anything. The moment she tried to help, the father turned to her, and the girl froze in fear. It was then that our hero's sister appeared, screaming his name and charging at the aggressor. She jumped on the man without any fear, asking what he was doing with a child. With a scream of rage, the girl sank her teeth into the aggressor's arm with all her might, and she bit the man so hard that he screamed in pain, unable to get free. Her father panicked and began to hit her so that she would let go of him by any means. With the father's screams, the entire neighborhood gathered to see what was happening. Princess Rin's mother also appeared along with the police, and the commotion grew even larger. Since many people saw the aggression and the bruises, the situation became complicated for the father, and because of that he was finally taken by the police despite screaming he was innocent. At the police station, Rin's mother finally confessed all the violence they suffered at home, and seeing the bruises on the girl's body, the policewoman was in shock, unable to say anything. The father was arrested, but in jail Rin's boyfriend comments that the wretch finally settled down, for he was killed by a cellmate while he was imprisoned in jail. Upon receiving the news, Princess Rin felt a shiver and a strange feeling, because if the father hadn't been arrested, she and her mother could have been the victims, and she realized that both could have been killed by him at any moment. On the day they cremated the father, the mother hugged her and apologized for not protecting her, and crying, the mother promised that from that day on she would live only for her. She said she would dedicate her life to compensate for all the suffering the daughter went through. Then the mother asked for her not to live like her, but rather that she find a good man. After that day, the mother truly dedicated herself entirely to the daughter in every sense, for she gave the best food, the best clothes, and even put her in good schools. Without saving a cent for herself, she didn't hesitate to spend the month's salary for the daughter. So much so that in the new school everyone thought Princess Rin was a daughter of a rich family, and the girl lived happily and with everything of the best thanks to her mother's sacrifices. Sometimes she remembered the boy who saved her and returned to the old playground, but unfortunately she never found him again and went on with her life not knowing what happened. But in high school she met again that boy who had defended her in the past, and to her surprise he was no longer the same brave boy she remembered, for now he was just a defenseless chubby boy who suffered bullying at the hands of the bullies. The guys humiliated him and mocked him while Princess Rin watched it all from afar. She was shocked by the scene, but not by the drastic change in his appearance. And it also wasn't because the brave appearance of the past had completely disappeared, but rather because even wanting to help she simply couldn't move. She realized that helping someone in trouble was much harder than it seemed, and that our hero at only 9 years old did something she now lacked the courage for. Princess Rin felt ashamed and shocked by her own cowardice at that moment, and without being able to help him or talk to him, the girl reached her 20s. It was then that she got her first boyfriend, an apparently perfect guy. In the beginning he was sweet and dedicated, but over time he started living with her. And that's when his true nature was revealed and violence began in her life. The boyfriend assaulted and humiliated her, and she couldn't tell her mother out of shame. She was afraid her mother would blame herself and be sad that she inherited the same fate. Therefore she endured everything in silence while the boyfriend threatened her to get money. If she tried to break up, he would assault her more, and if she called the police, he would threaten her with death. Princess Rin even thought the only way out of that hell would be death itself. But the boyfriend blackmailed her, saying that if she broke up he would leak intimate photos of her. And with a smile he said he would only leave her in peace as she got a few $100 million. He even mocked, saying that $100 or $200 million wouldn't be enough for him. Desperate, Princess Rin found herself cornered by the need to get money. And she thought that if she had the cash he asked for, she could finally escape that hell. But in her current situation, getting so much money seemed a totally impossible mission. As an influencer, she only got sponsorships and not real money from brands. She even thought about taking loans, but the boyfriend had already maxed out all of them in her name. Tired of worrying without a solution, Princess Rin started scrolling through her phone feed. And that's when she saw the video of our hero showing off his designer clothes. At that moment, the image of the boy who saved her in the past returned to her mind. She didn't know what happened after graduation, but one thing was certain. Now our hero had a lot of money, and that was all that mattered to her at the moment. And because she remembered he was a shy boy who didn't fight back when bullied, Princess Rin believed he would be an easy prey to get the money she needed. With a smile, she thought he would hand over the cash easily, if she asked nicely. Without caring about morals or conscience, she sent a message to him right away. On the day of the meeting, she was beaten by the boyfriend, but managed to hide the bruises with makeup. If she hadn't said she was going out to get the cash, the beating would have been much worse. But for Princess Rin, that was nothing, and she walked confidently to the meeting. For since she was little, no matter how much she was beaten, she was always good at faking. She learned to smile and act as if nothing were wrong even while broken inside. And as expected, our protagonist was an infatuated fool who fell for her little game. With a simple touch, our hero trembled so much she could feel his nervousness. And Princess Rin realized he was completely surrendered to her and in her hands. But even managing to deceive him, the girl was stressed and her stomach was burning. But none of that scared her, because she was certain of one very important thing. She knew that if she did that, our hero would give the cash she needed to escape. But suddenly he held her hand and asked if someone was hitting her. Princess Rin was in shock because she didn't expect to hear those words from him, and much less that he would offer to help if she were needing something. Even pretending everything was fine, her hands trembled during the entire dinner. She couldn't stop trembling, and it wasn't out of shame for being caught, but rather for feeling that her actions were humiliating to an unbearable point. For in the past, she couldn't help our protagonist and didn't even speak to him. The girl didn't have the courage to approach and watch him get beaten from afar without doing anything. And now, even after everything, he still tried to help her as he did in the past. She realized that someone who grew up with love is different and doesn't hesitate to help. At that moment, Princess Rin felt a deep envy of our protagonist, and the memory of her boyfriend assaulting her because of chicken made her feel more disgust. For while she ate an expensive dish, he was at home eating tasteless chicken. The boyfriend found the restaurant bill and was furious she spent so much. She tried to explain it was an investment, but he assaulted her for not giving him the money. The guy went so crazy he grabbed a knife, and Princess Rin thought she was going to die that day. Desperate, she threw her phone and wallet away and ran for her life without looking back. While running, she could only think about going to our hero's house to protect herself. After all, it was a luxury apartment, fancy enough for a celebrity to live in, and with such good security, her boyfriend would never be able to invade the place. But Princess Rin was very careless and forgot a very important detail. To talk to her mother, she logged into Messenger through our protagonist's laptop, and the boyfriend impersonated her to get her mother's address urgently. Princess Rin panicked upon realizing the psychopath knew where her mother lived, and to make the situation worse, a login notification popped up on the computer screen. It was her boyfriend saying he saw her logged in, and that he was going after her. And with a threatening message, he said he was on the way to her mother's house. With a photo of a knife on the steering wheel, he made it clear he wasn't playing around. Furious, Princess Rin curses her boyfriend as a wretch for having done that to her. She panics because she needs to call the police, but she no longer has her phone. And even if she calls, she knows that with his personality, he would return to take revenge. So she decides she needs to resolve that alone without her mother knowing anything, for she cannot let her mother suffer more, and decides that only she will go through that. To stop the psychopath from going after her mother, she realizes she needs one thing. With a determined look, she stares at the wads of money and understands she needs it. And without thinking twice, she sends a message saying she got the 500 million. Princess Rin then steals all the money from our hero's cupboard to pay the boyfriend. Upon delivering the cash, she asks if he is satisfied and orders him to leave her house. And, with a serious look, she says she gave the 500 million as agreed between them. Then she forbids him from calling her again and orders him never to show up again. But the boyfriend just laughs and with a psychotic look calls her a bitch for talking like that. He stares at her with rage and asks if she got 500 million so easily. And furious, he screams that she was playing hard to get with him this whole time. He says if he squeezes her, the money comes out, and that's why he'll never break up with her. Princess Rin is in shock with her boyfriend's greed and cruelty. For now, she realized he saw her only as a source of easy money. With a wicked smile, he asks if he should go visit her mother again. And the threat of going after her mother leaves her completely terrified and without an exit. He grabs her hair and says he should have done that from the start. And with a psychotic look, he warns that she will never be able to escape him again. Back at the hospital, Princess Rin wakes up from her faint, still confused by everything. She sits up in bed and our hero approaches to see if the girl is okay. Our protagonist tells her to rest because the doctor said she is exhausted, but the girl panics remembering her mother is in danger because of her. She says the boyfriend might go after her mother if she isn't there to protect her. Our hero then comforts her saying for her to calm down because everything is fine now. With a smile he guarantees nothing will happen and that she can relax peacefully because by this time her boyfriend is already being looked after by his new lackeys. And the scene cuts to Rin's boyfriend getting beaten and being buried alive in the woods. Desperate he screams and begs for the lackeys not to kill him right there. He says he was wrong and that the fault was all his asking them to spare him. And crying he joins his hands and implores them not to take his life that way. The two lackeys bury him up to his neck while he begs for his life. Jun then asks why he thinks he's in that situation now. Il-Sik questions him again and Rin's boyfriend says he doesn't know the reason, but shortly after he corrects himself and says it's because of the money he took. He promises to pay double but the lackey says he is wrong and hits him with the shovel. With the pain he remembers something else and says it was for having scammed people with gift cards. He promises to pay 10 or 100 times more but the lackeys don't care about that. Jun says the wretch is done for and tells his friend to bury him quickly so they can go eat. While the dirt is thrown over him, Rin's boyfriend screams for help desperate, but the lackey warns him that no one will hear him and that he will die there tonight. And before departing he says if by a miracle he survives it is to remember one thing. The bully lights a cigarette staring at the subject in the hole and gives one last very clear warning. He says with a cold voice for the guy not even to dream of coming near Princess Rin again if he wants to live, and making a scary gesture at his eyes he warns that if the girl sees him even if by accident, they won't be nice next time and will bury the top and bottom of his body separately. The scene shifts to a few days ago when our hero saw the messages on the computer and knew of the robbery. He admits that at the time recovering the stolen 500 million was not his main priority, for he was focused on solving his sister's problem and thought about getting the cash later. But upon opening the browser to research something on the internet, he found the traces left by the girl. And what he saw in the recent search history left him completely shocked and worried about her. They were desperate searches about how to avoid revenge murders and dating violence. Back at the hospital he says that anyone who saw that history would help the same way. With a gentle smile our protagonist says she doesn't need to thank him, because he only did what was right. Hearing those sweet words Princess Rin cannot take it and begins to cry copiously in front of him. Our hero panics thinking she is feeling pain and begins to apologize all clumsily, but she sobs saying she is sorry and compares herself to him feeling like a pathetic and bad person. Our hero is mesmerized watching her tears and thinks that even crying the girl manages to be insanely beautiful. But the sudden crying leaves him in a panic not knowing what to do while the woman asks 1,000 apologies for the commotion. She sobs saying she feels guilty because he helped her so much and she repaid by bringing problems to his life. The boy turns all red and stammers trying to calm her saying she doesn't need to worry about any of that. With a firm look he guarantees that nightmare is over and that the ex-boyfriend will never bother her again. And in that moment his phone vibrates with a message from the lackeys confirming the package was delivered successfully. The photo in the chat shows the two bullies smiling and giving a thumbs up beside the boyfriend's head buried in the ground. Princess Rin is confused by the situation but our protagonist soon changes the subject to talk about the debt. She insists she will pay the 500 million back, but he refuses promptly saying he already recovered everything. He explains that when they caught the subject they checked his phone and discovered the guy lived on betting sites. Luckily since there was a limit on cash deposits the bandit barely managed to spend a fraction of what he stole. And incredibly the wretch was in luck that day and ended up winning a fortune in online betting. The lackey saw the game account was in Princess Rin's name and luckily he hadn't withdrawn anything, so our hero managed to withdraw all the money back including the profits the criminal had obtained. Satisfied he says he recovered the principal with interest and suggests they consider the matter closed and call it even. Meanwhile the subordinate Il-Sik takes care of our hero's sister asking if that snack is enough for her. The girl smiles drinking her juice because even though it is simple that is already enough to make her happy and satisfied. He points to the cake on the table and asks incredulously if she won't even taste a tiny piece of that dessert. But she explains that the hospital prohibited any food that isn't industrialized because of her low immunity. Even so she celebrates because just the fact of having the IV removed and leaving the room already makes her feel very well. Suddenly she looks around and comments awkwardly that she seems to be the only person eating in that fancy cafeteria. Then she asks the boy to teach her how to place an order since there is no one at the counter and she is confused. Il-Sik stands up right away agreeing to help and asks her to sit down while he resolves everything. The attendant is surprised by the boy's height while he politely asks what the lady would like, but the sister interrupts mentioning she needs to go to the bathroom quickly because an urge suddenly hit. Concerned about her safety the boy suggests going along and asks her to wait just a moment. However she refuses saying she can go by herself and asks him to help the ladies who are nearby. Walking down the outer hallway she lets out a sigh of relief while following toward the bathroom. She thinks to herself that it is hard to hold it in because of the strong side effects of the chemotherapy. and upon approaching a suspicious van she laments having to ask for help every time she needs to use the bathroom. But Princess Rin with teary eyes says she doesn't want it to be like this. She says our hero is helping so much and she cannot give anything back. With a sincere look she promises that she will definitely pay the money back. The boy feels awkward with her insistence and tries to refuse the offer. He says she doesn't need to worry about that and that everything is fine, but the girl says she already recovered the money with more than enough interest. Then she suggests that they be even for what she did in the past. Our protagonist gets confused and asks what she is talking about. Princess Rin looks down ashamed and begins to confess her mistakes. She says that compared to him she is a pathetic and weak person, and with tears streaming down her face she offers a sincere apology. Our hero is startled by the sudden crying and asks if he is hurt. He is desperate trying to understand the reason for the girl's tears, and Princess Rin continues crying asking for forgiveness for everything she did. Meanwhile outside someone runs desperately shouting furious insults. However, our hero says he won't consider that they are even because he wants to maintain the bond. And Princess Rin swears that she will definitely pay everything she owes him in the future. She feels pathetic compared to his kindness and stands there all awkward with the situation. Meanwhile, in another place the day is beautiful with a rainbow shining in the sky. We see our hero's sister drinking a juice while El Sick asks if just that is enough. The boy eats a delicious cake and asks if she doesn't want even a tiny piece. But she explains the hospital prohibited outside food that isn't industrialized and sterile. Even so, she smiles radiantly saying that just being without the IV already makes her feel great. She comments that it seems he is the only one eating and notices there is no one serving. The girl points to the counter asking him to see how that machine there works. Il-Seek promptly stands up and asks her to sit while he solves the problem. He goes to the cashier and has fun seeing the options while making the order for them. Suddenly, the sister mentions she is going to run to the bathroom quickly because the urge hit. The boy is concerned and suggests going along to guarantee her safety on the way. But she refuses with a smile telling him to stay there and handle the order alone. Our hero is Lado Chen on top of his head asking how to deposit her cash. The pink creature tells him to go to a specific location and send the coordinates by message. The protagonist gets a bit annoyed and calls the Money King a wretch for giving so much trouble. But he obeys because he understands perfectly that he has no choice but to follow the rules. Suddenly he remembers the main rule and his eyes widen in absolute shock, for he realizes he touched something that he should never have touched in that situation. He bitterly regrets it and thinks he should have stayed by her side the entire time. With the phone handy, he laments not having protected his sister as he should have done. In that moment he felt his head cool down and remembered a day he had forgotten. It was when he saw a post on the internet saying delivery drivers earn well and decided to try. Then without his sister knowing he started making deliveries secretly around the city. He was excited thinking there was only one delivery left to complete the day's mission. And calculating he would earn a 30,000 won bonus he thought it would be easy money. Suddenly an emergency alert rang on his phone like any other common notice. But for some specific reason that day the message caught his attention in a strange way. He saw the disappearance alert for a 91-year-old elderly woman and decided to help. Our hero stopped the motorcycle and helped the lady who was disoriented on the street. He covered the grandmother with his coat and called the police to ensure she would return home. Because of it, the delivery was late and the food got cold, but the customer was understanding. Instead of complaining, the man praised his attitude and said there was no problem. And even without earning the bonus, our hero felt good for having done the right thing. A few days later, the lady's family appeared to say thanks with a generous gift. They gave him 300,000 won in gift cards as a way of gratitude for the help. But his sister found out about the delivery job and was furious with him. She forbade him from riding a motorcycle, and he had to promise he would never do that again. Back in the present, he realizes he needs to find someone faster than the police. Someone who knows the streets well and can help locate the kidnapper's car. So he takes the phone and enters the chat group for Seoul delivery drivers. He sends a message asking for help to find the vehicle that took his sister, and offers an absurd reward of 100 million won for whoever gives decisive information. Another delivery driver in the group sees the message and his jaw dropped with the absurd reward. But he is not the only one because inside the hiding place one of the lackeys also receives the notification. The kidnapping boss gets irritated with the distraction and tells the subordinate to wait outside. The lackey leaves the room complaining that the boss is acting too big for paying a pittance. Looking at the screen, he decides right then that he will betray the group and stay on the rich guy's side. Meanwhile, inside, our hero's sister stares at the bandits with a terrifying look. The man in the suit laughs, saying that is not a kidnapping and that he only wanted to have a chat. With a fake smile, he says if she is uncomfortable, she can leave at any time. He points to the door with cynicism, pretending to be a gentleman and giving permission for her to leave. The girl stands up right away, saying she has nothing to talk about with the general manager. But when the door opens, she comes face to face with a massive figure blocking the way. A giant man enters the room pushing a wheelchair and bringing a visitor. The sister is paralyzed with shock upon recognizing the woman sitting there, calling her Ji-Hai. The mysterious woman wears a mask and comments coldly that is the first time they meet in a long time. While the tension rises, the tattooed lackey takes advantage of the distraction to send the location. She says even her aide disappeared with the expensive creams she is using now, and wonders if it is because she moved house or if it is because of the better food. Looking in the mirror, he admits that maybe he is getting a decent face, but suddenly a camera flash goes off and he realizes someone took a photo of him. Our hero turns around startled and comes face to face with his lackey, who is laughing at him. The chubby guy asks what he is doing there, and the boy answers with mockery. He says the boss was thinking he looked very handsome and decided to record the moment, and even jokes saying it would be problematic if he got any more handsome than that. Suddenly his phone rings and he sees it is his sister's bodyguard calling. He answers and the man warns that something strange happened while he was out. The bodyguard says his sister was kidnapped and our hero is in shock. He cannot believe what he just heard and asks if he is really serious. Meanwhile, in another place, the tattooed lackey calls the kidnapping boss. He warns that the mission was a success and that the girl is already in their custody. The boss laughs satisfied and says now they will get the money they wanted so much. One of the lackeys sees the message in the group and breaks into a cold sweat, confirming the reward is 100 million won. Greed speaks louder and he cannot resist the temptation to earn that easy fortune just by sending a message. The boss notices his distraction and screams furiously, telling the subject to get out of there if he has nothing else to do. Meanwhile, the other lackey obeys and leaves the room, agreeing to wait for the money outside as ordered. The general manager walks back, complaining about the subordinate's audacity in acting with arrogance over a pittance. But outside, the traitor decides it is much more worth it to be on the rich guy's side than to be loyal to the stingy boss. Inside, our hero's sister stares at the kidnapper with a mortal look that leaves the man even a bit uncomfortable. The subject tries to brush it off, saying that is not a kidnapping and that they only brought her for a friendly conversation. With a cynical smile, he points to the exit and says as she is bothered, she has total freedom to leave now. Without wasting time, the girl stands up right away, saying she is already going since she has no business with that scoundrel. But as soon as she opens the door to flee that horrible place, she realizes the exit will not be that easy, for a massive figure blocks the way and greets Miss Manhwa with a deep and intimidating voice. The man pushes a wheelchair into the room, revealing a woman who appears to be very sick and weak. The sister is in shock, recognizing the woman sitting there, calling her Ji-Hi with an expression of surprise on her face. The boss takes advantage of her shock and with a victorious smile asks her to sit down again to continue the talk. He says it is from a delivery driver in the group, and our hero is surprised by the speed of the response. The informant confirms he found the van crashed and abandoned in the middle of the street. Our protagonist is worried about the accident and asks if his sister is okay, but the delivery driver says he lost sight of them after the crash and doesn't know her condition. Then our hero tells him to find the kidnapper faster than the police. He enters the group again and sees the photo of the biker who is at the accident site. Our protagonist recognizes the bike and remembers that guy is an acquaintance. He is relieved to know that someone trustworthy is handling the situation at that moment. Meanwhile, the delivery driver at the accident site sees the kidnapper trying to flee on foot. The bandit runs desperately along the sidewalk, trying to escape the mess he caused, but the biker accelerates and manages to knock down the fugitive with a precise strike. The kidnapper falls to the ground, groaning in pain and cursing the biker who knocked him down. The delivery driver removes the helmet and reveals he is an old friend of our hero, who smiles victoriously. He holds the bandit by the collar and says he will take him to the hospital like a good citizen. But the kidnapper struggles and screams, saying he doesn't need any help from that lunatic. The manager slides the settlement agreement across the table with a victorious smile, expecting her to finally yield to the pressure. He comments with arrogance that he imagined the girl would have changed her mind, while she stares at the document with trembling hands. The tension in the room is heavy, with Eun-Hwi kneeling on the floor looking at the sick friend, while the villain just observes everything. The woman in the wheelchair remains in silence with a sad and resigned look, leaving our sister even more desperate. And holding the pen, the man thinks with disdain that all that stubbornness is useless, because in the end she will have no other choice but to sign.